Like, I can already feel like you guys are gonna like do cool stuff.
Into the motive.
Just being good to one another.
Yeah.
But
You guys are doing a good thing here.
The people at the top collaborate, you know,
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
people that are at the bottom compete.
Yeah, it resulted in me shooting him.
I was charged with 109 and a 50.
Ultimately, you'll get to where you want to go if you push yourself enough.
I genuinely love this conversation.
I love the Motive Podcast.
Welcome back to the Motive Podcast. I'm your host, Leo Kosach. Alongside me is my co-host, Kyle Cohen. And joining us today, a very special guest, the managing editor of Mainline Today and The Hunt magazine, Miss Gina Lizzo. Thank you for being here, Gina.
Thank you for having me. It's always weird because I'm used to doing the interviewing.
Right.
So
Yeah.
now to be on the other side of it, I feel a little nervous.
And we got connected through a former guest, Carly Simmons. You said, we were just talking off camera, you said you interviewed her for Mainline. I think I got a lot of my information for her episode from your article, so thank you, I guess.
Good. I'm glad that helped you.
Yeah. But all right, as we like to start like, you know, our full guest story. So growing up, you said, well, first of all, you said you went to Shanahan, so you're local to the area. But even before that, growing up around here, where did you grow up? What was your early life like? Tell us everything.
I grew up out past Coatesville, southern Chester County, real Amish land, called Parksburg. It's kind of like one of those blink and you miss it towns, about like 300 feet maybe. But I grew up out there, only child, so really close to my parents. I actually like to joke that I went to every single type of school you can imagine. Like I started in public school, I went to a small private Christian school, and then I did a cyber school stint, so I could play golf actually. So I would play golf all day and then do school at night. And as you can imagine, as an only child with parents that worked, it got pretty lonely because there weren't a lot of other kids on the golf course in the middle of the day. Yeah. So I was like, guys, I just need to go to real school. So then transferred into Shanahan my sophomore year of high school, where I played on the boys golf team there. And I was that annoying kid who was always like, you know, oh, you forgot to collect the homework. Like, I was that kid. So went from there. I went to LaSalle. I played golf there. And that pretty much sums up education.
Yeah, so before you went to Shanahan, were you like kind of like, was it like hard for you to settle anywhere? Like did you have like struggle like connecting with anyone, being like all over the place, or were you kind of just like in your zone?
Yeah, I think as an only child, you get an interesting, like, you spend more time around adults, especially growing up in golf. So it's like, if I can connect with a 45-year-old person, like I can connect with a 15-year-old person. Like it's almost easier in a way.
Yeah. So you weren't like intimidated at all going into Shanahan?
No. I was so excited to actually go to a real school and be around real people.
Did you enjoy your time there?
Oh my God, I loved it. Loved it. I think it's, no offense to you guys, but I think it's the best school in the area.
Okay. I think we had, it might have been like almost your year. I'm not sure. You guys probably like overlap. We had a guy, Christian Miller. He's like a triathlete. He went to Shanahan. I don't know. I think he's like similar age to you. I'm not sure. But yeah, I don't know. We've had a couple like former Shanahan guests on here, so good school.
Good. Shanny represent.
The Eagles, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Kyle, how was their football team this year? Just because Kyle plays football.
Team, they were really good this year. They won the Chessmont.
Yeah, I heard that. I forgot.
The whole Chessmont thing is weird now because they split it up in like 4 different divisions, and I don't like it. But I think they beat D West and someone else good, and Coatesville. Yeah, like you said. So those are 2 big wins because they were 2 good teams this year. So.
Okay. Yeah. How did you get into golf?
So, interesting story. So when I was around kindergarten, I had my little group of girlfriends, like, your early friend group, and they were all cheerleaders. And I wanted to be a cheerleader with them in the worst way. And I begged my dad, please let me go do cheer with them. I do dance with them. I do this with them. I do that with them. And then this night they all go to cheerleading and I don't get to go. Like, please let me go be a cheerleader. And my dad sat me down, and I'll never forget this. He said, you're not going to go cheer for some boy to go to college for free. You're going to play a sport and you're going to go to college for free. So I played golf and I went to college for free.
Okay.
Worked out for him.
Dad had the vision.
Yeah.
Did you like ever like struggle with it? Like, was it like, oh, this is such a chore to like get out and play, or did you like really like fall in love with it?
A little bit of both. I think a college sport, it kind of becomes like a job. I mean, there were times where I'd be like, oh, I really want to go to this concert. Can I switch my off day and go to this concert? And the coach would be like, we pay you to do this. So no, you're going to come to practice. You're not. You sell your concert tickets. Sorry. Right. So by the time I was done with it, I was kind of like, all right, it's time for a break, and now I just play casually.
Nice. Where do you play?
So when I was growing up, I was fortunate to have a job at Aronimic, so best of the best, and got playing privileges there. But
That's awesome.
now high school we played at Downingtown Country Club, so go back there a lot for the mems.
Yeah, because that's right. That's like, can you like walk there from Shanahan?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's cool. Were you involved with like anything else in high school? Like speaking of like writing, were you in like any clubs or anything like that?
Yeah, so I was on yearbook. I did community service corps. I was the ultimate. I was thinking about the SATs since kindergarten. So whatever I could do for that resume, I was doing it. I actually, when I first realized I was a writer, I was probably in 4th grade. The teacher, her name was Mrs. DiLorenzo, she assigned us a 2-page short story. And for 4th graders, like a 2-page short story, everyone was like, what? Like, that's so much. But me being the person I am, I wrote her a 40-page front and back story.
What grade were you in when you said that?
4th grade.
4th grade? That's insane.
Now I look back and I feel bad that I made the teacher read that. But she was kind of the first person who saw the writer in me, and she put me in with a reading and writing specialist. So for lunch and recess, I would go actually have my lunch and do my recess period with that specialist, and she kind of cultivated my writing skills and helped me really grow in that area. So it was funny how by the time I was, sophomore, junior, senior year of high school, that I didn't automatically assume I'd go to college for writing. I kind of was like, oh, well, marketing makes sense. I'd grown up on the golf course, so you see all the business deals that go down. You meet all these business people, and I was like, oh, marketing, I'll make the most money there, and then I'll tie it up with psychology, and I'll be super hireable because I'll understand why people want to buy the things that they buy. And honestly, hated it. Hated it. Got my first job. I graduated in 3 years. So I graduated the year early. I graduated May 9th, 2020, started working May 11th, 2020. Wow. So no breaks, nothing. Started working marketing, absolutely hated it. I was like, maybe I just don't like where I am. Maybe I just don't like this company. Tried another marketing job, hated it. So I think, that's one of the things a lot of people always ask me, what's your advice for young people? And that's definitely like, find your passion and don't let money be, they say money doesn't buy happiness. And I think there's something to that. If you're not living in your passion and your purpose, like I truly feel like I am now, you're not going to be happy. And then it doesn't matter what money you're making.
Yeah, 100%. What was I going to say? Oh, at the end of high school, like, did you know, you said LaSalle, like, were you set on like LaSalle? Was there any other schools you were like, or did you know like LaSalle, marketing, whatever, like were you set on that?
So I was actually junior year, I was verbally committed to go play golf at Carnegie Mellon.
Okay.
So 4 hours away in Pittsburgh, and I was excited about that. And then I had gotten a new phone, and when I got the new phone, I had flooded with all these voicemails that I didn't get on the old phone, and one of them was from the coach at LaSalle. And I was like, oh, well, I would so much rather be 40 minutes from home versus 4 hours from home, especially as an only child. So I called the coach back, and I was like, listen, I know you called me 3 months ago, but is there any hope? And he was like, oh my God, I've been waiting for you to call. So kind of fell into that. Luckily, my dad had actually, a few weeks before that, my dad had fallen 2 stories trying to paint a ceiling in our house and broken his pelvis. And I was like, I remember sitting in the hospital and being like, oh my God, I can't be 4 hours away from my family. Like, that's just too much for me. So the LaSalle thing was such a blessing to be so close to home. And it's nice, when you do go off to school, and to be somewhere where your parents can come take you out for a good meal and not be in the dining hall all the time. Like, don't take that for granted.
Yeah, 100%. What did you get on your SAT?
Oh God.
Gotta ask.
They're gonna make us look bad.
Ooh, I don't remember, but I will tell you, I got a perfect score on the English part.
Okay.
Hey, that says enough. That says enough. You don't need to flex anymore. That's good.
My math was low enough that it drug me down a little bit, but
yeah, my math is so bad. We talked about this. I'm like all right. I'm like writing in history, not math and science. That's how my brain works.
Yeah. So my history, I hated history.
Really?
And my junior year of high school, I was in an AP comparative government that was for seniors. Why I was in it as a junior, I don't know, but I was the only junior in it. and all of the papers, there was a paper due every week, and my dad loves history, so I had my dad write all my papers for that class. And it was funny because I was getting straight A's on all these papers, but then when the test came around, I would bomb the test, and the teacher never put it together, like, how is she writing these 100% perfect papers and then getting 60s on the test?
Hey, that's kind of relatable, I feel. Because we're both in AP Gov right now.
Okay.
No, you are. I'm not.
Yeah, I forgot.
But we
yeah.
both took 2 years of AP history before
Yeah.
this
Okay.
year, so.
We know how it feels.
And then
It's not fun.
It's not fun.
How's your overall, like, did you like LaSalle? Like, how's your experience there? You said, like, it was close to home. You enjoyed
Yeah.
that factor?
It was nice to be close to home. When I was considering colleges, I was like, I want to be a city girl. Like, I want to be in the city. And then I quickly got to the city and realized that I was a suburbs girl.
Okay.
The city was not for me. But I had a good experience. I did everything I kind of went into it with this mindset of, all right, freshman year, like, I'll like get my bearings, I'll have a good time, I'll do the typical college thing. But then sophomore year, like, it's grind time. Like, I'm getting my internships, I'm, taking summer classes, I'm doing all the clubs and the sorority, the exec board, everything that I could to build that resume. So I still kind of look back and I'm like, how did I do that? Because I'd be like waking up, going to an 8 a.m. class, going back to an internship, going to the golf course, going to a sorority meeting, going back home to do homework. So I kind of just never stopped, really, which allowed me to graduate a year early, which I'm grateful for. But definitely hit the burnout eventually on that.
How did you have the you said you like got a job like a few days out of college. How did you have that lined up? Like, was that something you worked on like months in advance or whatever?
Yeah, so I had an internship. I had my first internship, and then when I decided I was going to graduate early, I was like, I love this internship, but I need another one on my resume. So I had switched, and then by the time my senior year started, I kind of sat down with them and told them, I would love to stay here after graduation. What does that look like? And they offered me a full-time job. So I was grateful to have that because I graduated college in 2020. So right with COVID. So I was grateful that I had my job locked down, September 2019. So I never had to deal with that COVID nightmare.
Yeah. Did you work like online at all, or was it like, how was your experience like the first year in like the workforce with that time?
Yeah, it was kind of interesting because I never, I had the internship in the office, but for a while I had a full-time gig and never was in an office. Like, I was doing my first full-time big girl job in my childhood bedroom painted lavender. So it's kind of weird to think about. Like, my parents are downstairs. And so, it was weird to start the career that way, but I think now that plays such a role in, I don't have to go into my office all the time, and I typically don't. I'll maybe stop in once every other week, and I can't tell you the last time I stayed a full day in an office, but I have older colleagues who need to be in the office, and you start to totally see the difference where I kind of started my career not in the office versus older colleagues. That's all they know.
Right.
So it's interesting to kind of see the difference there.
So what was it about the marketing jobs that you didn't like?
I just feel like it wasn't I just didn't go into it thinking, what is my passion? What is my purpose? I kind of went in like, oh, I can make a lot of money doing this. And I didn't have full creative freedom that I wanted, which was annoying to me. And there was a lot of, oh, I'd love to do this new idea. This is new. This is fresh. This is cool. And I would get the response, well, that's not how we do it. Like, okay, it's how we can do it. You're moving forward. So I think once I kind of accidentally fell into the gig at Mainline today, and that I just knew in the marketing, like, there's no way people live like this. Like, there's no way people hate their job and wake up every day and hate to go to work on Sunday, feel so anxious and not want to go to work the next day. I was like, I can't do this for the rest of my life. So I was really grateful to fall into Mainline today the way I did and really kind of find my purpose and my passion through that.
Yeah. Tell us how you fell into the gig at Mainline today. Give us the full story.
Yeah. So I was in my second marketing job, knew I had to get out, didn't know how I was going to get out. I was kind of applying randomly to other marketing jobs and thinking I could only do that because that's what my degree was in, which is not true at all. But somebody reached out to me while I was doing the marketing job. It was a mom of one of my friends, and she said, hey, I have an article to write. She was the managing editor at Mainline Today at the time. And she goes, hey, I have an article to write about golf. I know nothing about golf, and you obviously do, so will you write the article? was like, yeah, sure, I'll try it. Why not? So I wrote the article, sent it off to her. She gets back to me, hey, this is really good. Do you want to keep doing this? So I was like, sure. So I started to do some minor freelance assignments for the magazine and got to the point where I was like, oh my God, like this is it. Like this is what lights me up inside. This is what I'm meant to be doing. So I decided I was going to take that summer. I quit my marketing job. I was like, you know what? I never took a break. I'm going to take a few months. I'm going to just do some freelance jobs, see what happens. You know, this is what I want to pursue a long time. I did a little grad school work at UCLA for journalism and writing and editing. And it's funny because I did that because I thought I had to have formal training to get the job. And the week before my classes started, the editor-in-chief at Mainline Today reached out to me and said, hey, we have a position here at the magazine as digital editor. Would you want to do it? And I was like, sure. So goes to show you don't need formal training. But backtracking a little bit, before he offered me that job, I had basically decided that I was in love with the magazine. I was in love with the job. I was going to do anything I could to get in there. I was just going to beat down that door until they let me in. So I would dog sit for the editor-in-chief and I would clean his whole house. Like they would come home and be like, well, what the hell? Like this girl just cleaned the entire house. So I pitched ideas constantly, wanted to write as much as I could. So he did finally offer me that gig doing the social media for the magazine and running their website. I did that for I think only 3 or 4 months when the managing editor decided she was going to step away, and the editor-in-chief called me and said, you know, I know you've only been here like 4 months, but what do you think? Do you want to be managing editor? And I was like, sure, I can try. I totally wasn't trained for it. I was 22 at the time, so I was definitely way younger than most people who hold this position. But it was like, you know what? I wouldn't have the opportunity if I wasn't ready for it. So let's just give it a go and learn. I think a lot of people get stuck in this, like, well, that's not what my degree is in. You know, I don't have the training for this. And that's just totally unimportant, I think, today. And, you know, the first time my editor-in-chief met my mom, he told my mom one of the things that he valued most about me was that I knew I didn't know everything. So I was like, you know what? There is value in not knowing everything. Like nobody actually knows what they're doing. So it is fine to go in and learn. And I'm always open to asking my editor-in-chief, like, hey, I saw that you did this. Tell me why you did that. Just because I want to know, just because I want to learn. Right. So another piece of advice for young people, I guess, like, don't be afraid not to know everything.
Yeah, 100%.
That makes me interested where your thoughts on college in general, like people just going to college, and because I feel like there's a pushback on college in general, like now, and just feeling like do you really need it, or is it really necessary, or can you just figure it out without it, or what are your thoughts?
Especially for someone who's like creative, like,
right,
in writing or content or whatever.
Yeah. That's an interesting one, because I feel like my instant thought is yes, go to college, because I feel like we were kind of raised that way, like, you know, especially with the education I had, like that was always the end goal, like you're going to go to college. And now I feel like we're definitely kind of trending more towards a world where maybe you don't need it. You know, maybe if you have the hustle and you have the grind and you are able to find your purpose, you know, maybe it's not always necessary to put yourself in debt so much.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I question, what does that education truly provide you, unless you're trying to be like a physical therapist, like I shared, or like a doctor, like what does it really provide you? Because I feel like it's skills that you can't just learn in a classroom,
right,
for most of the time.
Right.
So what does it really provide? And that's why I feel like
I remember
the
when I
backlash.
graduated, looking back and being like, okay, so I have a marketing degree. I took like 2 marketing classes. So how am I qualified to, you know, I don't really know anything. And I can say, oh, I've studied psychology. Did I know anything about psychology? No. So was I really qualified? You know, and it just makes you wonder, where was the value, I guess.
Right.
I just feel like it all depends. Like, it's like, I feel like at the end of the day, like, it really is, like, for the most part, like, you go to college just to get the piece of paper and, like, the networking aspect. But it's like, you don't have to go to college just to network. Like, networking is, like, all, like, I feel like it's just it's on you to network, like, wherever you're at. But, yeah, the piece of paper, I don't know. I feel like we're in, like, this phase where it's, like, there's still, like, the higher ups at companies that are looking to hire people still value the piece of paper more than anything else. But, like, maybe in 20 years when those people are retired, then the piece of paper just becomes less and less valuable. I don't know. That's kind of how I look at it. We'll see.
It's going to be interesting, like 20 years from now, 30 years from now, what it's going to look like.
I think it'll be a lot different, for sure.
Especially now with TikTok and
I was just going to mention that.
a social media creator, you know, there's a lot of different avenues now.
Yeah, the TikTok ban stuff the last like 48 hours has just been like I don't use like I don't even use TikTok. I'm TikTok is the one app I'm very good about. I just go in there, I post our clips, and I don't scroll on TikTok at all. Instagram, not so much. But I've been in shambles the past 48 hours because I didn't know CapCut, which is like what I use to edit a lot of my stuff. Like I didn't know that was gonna get banned too. So like I'm editing, I'm finishing up a video that's I've taken like 2 weeks on. Like I put so much time in this video, and then I see like can't log in the CapCut. I'm like, are you kidding me? And I need to like clear up storage. So I just had to like delete the app, and now I can't download it. Like I didn't delete TikTok. Like, I don't know if you've seen the stuff. Like it's not on the App Store yet. Like it's unbanned, but it's not on the App Store. Like you can't re-download it. I don't know. It's a mess. Whatever. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But yeah. What was I gonna say? Oh, where do you to fully transition? So where would you say you like find your inspiration, like in the work environment, your personal environment, just for writing in general?
Yeah. I take a lot of inspiration from going to as many things as I can go to and meeting as many people as I can, because those are the people who I'm going to be writing about, or the people who are going to be introducing me to the people I'm going to be writing about. So I try to go to as many things as I can. And a lot of people say, network, but my thing is kind of like connect with people. I can throw my business card at as many things that stick, and people are going to put it in their pocket and get home and take it out and be like, oh, I don't remember who this was, and throw it away. But if you connect with the people and they oh, I talked to that girl for a while about this and she was really great, or whatever, I feel like that connecting more so than networking is what gets you places. But in terms of finding inspiration, I feel like creativity is such, like, it doesn't come at the same time and it doesn't come in the same places. So there will be times when I have an article to write and it's 11 o'clock in the morning and I'm like, you know what, I can write this from my couch right now. And other times I'm like, oh, it's 6 o'clock, I need to go sit in a cafe and write. So it's different all the time where I want to be, but you just kind of gotta follow the creative flow wherever it takes you.
Right. Have you always like enjoyed and found that natural, like connecting with everyone, like out in the world, networking / connecting?
I think so. I think that goes back to like being an only child and you're around adults more so than kids. So I was kind of always comfortable there.
Yeah. What's the cool over the past 3 years? What would you say is like the coolest experience that you've been like thrown into? I'm sure there's many, but is there one that you found yourself in that's like, wow, this is pretty cool, I can't believe I'm here, or something like that?
Yeah, a few months ago, Fanatics opened a new sports book in an Atlantic City casino, and I got invited to the launch. And Michael Rubin's actually the founder of Fanatics. He's from Bryn Mawr. He's a local guy. He still has a house in Bryn Mawr, still lives here. So I was like, you know what, it'd be so cool if I could go to this and get an interview with him. So I had my questions prepared, I did my research, but there was no guarantee that I was gonna get an interview with him. So I go to this event and he's there, Jay-Z is there, Quavo's there, just like the people in the room. It was kind of incredible. Like Jay-Z like brushed me on the arm. I was like, whoa, this is kind of crazy. But so after they did the whole unveiling and ribbon cutting, they told the reporters that, they were just going to have us all scrum, which is a really ugly word, but basically means, we would all stand in the line and ask him questions at the same time, and we would get all the same answers. Like, it wasn't like an individual interview. So they have the interviewers all standing there waiting in the line, and I kind of just edged myself away and closer to Michael Rubin in hopes that maybe he would come to me before he went to that line. And I kind of just, tried to make eye contact, and he did come to me before he went to the line, and I got my own interview, which I was really proud about. So I got to talk about the main line, and that came out in our December issue. So that was probably a good win for the year.
So what is like your process of like interviewing, like being quick, being fast? Like, are you writing? Are you recording? Like, how do you conduct that?
Recording for sure. And then I run it through a transcribe app because I'm old fashioned. I need to print everything out. I guess like working for a magazine, I like paper. I like to feel it and flip through it. So definitely printing out all my interviews. Usually that Michael Rubin one was a rare, I have 3 minutes and I got to get this done. Usually I have, 30 to an hour, and I spend a few days before doing research. What do I want to talk to this person about? what is their background like, getting all those questions. And sometimes they just kind of come off the fly. You know, some interviews flow really naturally and people will talk really easily and it just flows. Other times it's kind of like pulling teeth a little bit. So you got to encourage them to talk a little bit more, which can be difficult.
Do you use like voice memos on your phone, or do you use like a recorder? Or?
I use the voice memo on my phone. It's the easiest way, and then I send it to an app called iTranscribe.
Okay.
I used to listen to them and type them out myself before before there was an app for that. So thank
tedious.
God. Yeah, it would take hours.
Yeah. Do you so have you been like on screen for a lot of stuff? Like, do you enjoy being on screen like versus off screen?
Yeah, so I've been on the news a few times to promote things with the magazine, and it's funny because you kind of just black out. Like the second, like they're like, "All right, you're on." It's just like, it's the weird like out of body experience. I remember I went on Fox 29 one time to promote the magazine's restaurant week, and I was on with 4 of the restaurants that were participating. So they started with me, they talked to me about it, then they went down the line and each chef had a dish that the host got to taste, and it was a pretty cool little segment. But at the end of the line, the host comes back to me and he goes, "Oh, and you guys are doing a giveaway, right?" And we were not doing a giveaway. So like, I don't know if you could see the panic flash across my face, but I was like, what am I gonna say? Oh no, we're actually not. So I just made up a giveaway on this. I was like, what am I gonna say? No. So it's a real out of body experience almost.
That's funny. Yeah, I feel like the news can be like, I mean, to some people just like freeze up on any camera, like
right.
It just is. But I feel like the news is especially just because there's so much like happening around you, and like you said, it's so like timed. Like you have this to this, right?
Right.
So,
especially when it's live and you can't. I've only done one segment that we filmed in advance. Everything else I've done has been live, so it's kind of like baptism by fire.
Yeah. I was up at Penn State with ESPN College Game Day, like, you know, the College Game Day show, and like I was with the producer of College Game Day, like behind the scenes, on set, and it was just crazy to see like how they operate, you know, everyone behind the scenes. Like there's so much happening, it's just crazy, like all the time segments and all that stuff. There's just
and everybody
so much
knows exactly what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Like it's like the perfect like coordinated chaos.
Yeah. And with like Game Day, like what like blew my mind is like they do that every week, like in a different spot. Like they travel with that all across the country, and like it's so tedious, and so there's so much work goes into it. But what's like your favorite part of the area? Like, do you have a favorite part, or like something about Mainline in general? Like there's so much to touch on there, but
I think I was always kind of growing up, because I grew up like on the outskirts of the main line.
Right.
I think I was kind of like a mainline wannabe. Like I was just enamored by the area and by the people, and I wanted to be like them and live like them. And I think it's totally different beast than Philly. Like I think Philly has a different everything. Philly has a different vibe. Philly has a different food scene. Philly has different fashion. And me personally, I think it's better out here. I like it out here so much. I think the community is incredible. I think there's a lot out here of collaboration, not competition, which I love.
Okay.
I feel like it's a little more cutthroat in the city, where here we're all about connecting and how can I connect you to you and help person A get to person B. And I think it's just, I really value that collaboration over competition. I think that's probably one of the best parts about this area.
right. Have you ever had any like thoughts, or like just traveled out to like other cities? Like, you know, you hear them move out to LA for marketing and content, and like, has there ever been any thoughts of that? I mean, obviously, because I feel like everything happened so quick for you. Like here, it's just there's no reason to, right?
Right. I've thought about it. I feel like this is kind of sacrilegious for me to say, because I'm a huge Yankees fan, but I love Boston.
Okay.
I do love that city. I love Tampa, but I think because I feel so aligned with my purpose and my passion where I am right now, I don't really have a desire to leave. And it's funny because growing up, I used to make fun of the people who would I feel like everybody from Shanahan graduates and they either go to Westchester or Penn State, and then they live in Westchester. So like every time I leave, I live in the Westchester borough now, and every time I leave my apartment, it's like a Shanahan reunion. I see somebody. I mean, when I moved into my apartment, the 2 girls who lived above me, I graduated with them and had no idea.
cool.
Like we were living in the same building. But so I always made fun of people who never left, and now here I am being like, I'm never leaving.
Yeah, well, I'm like struggling with that right now, like we were talking about with college, because it's like I feel so connected here with like so many people that I've met around here, and it's like I can go to Westchester for free, and it's like I like Westchester. Like there's no burning desire for me to leave here,
Right.
but it's also like I can expand somewhere else. But I mean, I love personally, I love to live in an apartment in Westchester right now. I'd be set, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
I don't think now I've totally kind of changed my mindset. I don't think there's any shame in staying.
Yeah. I don't know. It's hard. You mentioned Tampa. I applied to Tampa. I haven't been in the city. Like, what do you like about the city? Is it just
About Tampa?
yeah, about Tampa?
Love the weather. I'm the kind of person, like, I'd rather be 120 degrees
Yeah.
than 20 degrees. I just love, my dad actually spent some time down there in his 20s, and I'm always like, why did
Okay.
you leave?
Yeah. That's why I mentioned Arizona State. Everyone's like, once you get there, like you'll never come back. I'm like, I don't know. Guess we'll have to see.
See, that's far.
Yeah, it's like
What,
20.
how long's the flight? Like,
I don't know. It's probably like a 6-hour, 5.5-hour flight.
Okay.
But still, it's like 24-hour
You're
drive.
eating dining hall food every day, my friend.
Yeah. I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you have like top 5 mainline Philly area restaurants?
Okay. I can name 5. I don't know if they're gonna be like in order, like
Okay.
number one,
Okay.
but Testarossa, Glen Mills,
Okay.
amazing. It's part of the Fearless Restaurants group. It just opened. It's amazing. The vibes, immaculate. Number 2 would be Hiramasa in Newtown Square. I love sushi. I eat sushi like 4 to 5 times a week. I definitely have mercury poisoning, but it's fine. Number 3, also in Glen Mills, Del Pez. It's kind of the
Okay.
ultimate combination of Mexican, Japanese, and Italian, which is like all my favorite cravings.
that
So
sounds good.
it's like whatever you want, you can get it there. All right, I have 2 more, right?
yeah.
Dolce Zola in Westchester, handmade
Yep.
pasta, severely underrated. Nobody will ever say that's their favorite place, but it's so good. It gets overshadowed by limoncello, but
Yeah.
definitely
I
try
agree.
it. And number 5, I think I'd have to go. Oh, easy. Daniel's in Conshohocken, another underrated gem. The couple who
Okay.
runs it are amazing. The food is so good, and the drinks are. I'm not really a big drinker, but the drinks there are a must.
Okay. The top. All right. I don't want to put you on the spot again here, but to more local, I want to know your top 3 Westchester spots.
Okay,
You already
so
Dolce Zola's one.
Dolce Zola's one. Beer Hall Townhouse, because I think
Okay.
the owner's awesome, and he's always there, which I think like that dedication. I think Westchester's a hard town to survive in because you kind of have to be like a personality. Like you
Yeah.
can't just throw your restaurant down and hope for the best. Like you need to be there. You need to be meeting your clientele, forming relationships, and the owner there does that for sure. And then I gotta give it to, I think a lot of people would go Pizza Westchester, but I would go Steaks Westchester, honestly.
Okay. I don't know if I've been there. I don't think like Pizza Westchester. I just had on Wednesday. Like
Okay.
I think it's the best pizza in the area. I have to
Yeah.
say.
The
That-
owner is just a great guy. Like you
Yeah,
gotta admire
Spirit.
that hustle.
Yeah. That and do you know Ravanisi and Glen Mills?
Mm-mm.
I don't know if it was in like the Philly Inquirer or something. I don't know. That got ranked 1 in like best pizza in Philly, and Pizza Westchester was 2. So then I had to go to this place in Glen Mills. It's like kind of like the same thing. Like it's like similar. You have to reserve your dough like 5 days ahead, and then they
Okay.
like save dough for you. It's like really good. It's like a little spot. Like it's not like anything like too flashy, but it's amazing pizza.
Okay.
But yeah. What was I gonna say? Oh, travel. Do you like to travel? Do you like to travel around at all? I saw on your Instagram you were in like Peru, right?
Yes.
How did you get down there,
So
and why?
yeah. So Peru is this is a good story. So my boyfriend does a clothing line, and it's alpaca sweaters, hats, and socks. It's called
Okay.
Alpaca. He sources everything from farmers and artisans in Peru.
Wow.
So when we got together, I kind of started helping him with the business, and he was like, do you want to go to Peru with me? Business expense trip, no cost for you. Like, come to Peru with me, just model the clothes and all the photos. And I was like, sure, sounds good. I'll go with you. I had never been out of the country at this point.
Okay.
So he's traveled everywhere, Galapagos, Indonesia. He's been everywhere. I've been nowhere.
How long ago was this?
This was September of 23.
Okay.
Okay.
So we go down there, and I had done no research. I had no idea what Peru was like. I was like, oh, this is his dream trip, whatever. You know, I'm just along for the ride. I'm supposed to look pretty in the pictures. It's fine. Done no research. And we would, the summer leading up to it, we would go out to the bars in Westchester, and we would come home, and he would say, drunk, he would say, I'm going to propose in Peru. And I was like, okay, like he forgot it, but I didn't forget it. So we get to Peru, and like every time I go near his bag, he's like, what do you need? What do you need? And I'm like, oh, so there's something in the bag I'm not supposed to know about. So every day I'm like, you know, we're traveling through Peru with a photographer. I'm like, okay, I bet he's going to propose at some point. So the very last day, he has this hike planned to Osengate is what it's called. And he had bought me these hiking boots. I'd never hiked before. I'm not an outdoor girl. He bought me hiking boots. We broke them in by walking around Westchester. Like, I was not prepared for this. He and the photographer, I think they both kind of had a feeling that I was going to back out of the hike. And they were like, don't worry, it's an hour there. It's an hour back. It's flat. You'll be fine. Like, no problem. So it's like, okay, like I can do it. Morning of, we wake up at 2 a.m. And I'm like, you know what? This is already kind of a bad sign. Maybe I should fake sick, just stay in the hotel. You know, last day, he'll be fine without me. But then I'm like, all right, well, he's proposing on this trip, and it's last day. So 3 a.m. we leave. It's a 3-hour drive to this mountain, and you lose cell service halfway through. You're like off-roading, basically. We get there, and the photographer goes sprinting up this hill. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I thought this was flat. And they're like, oh, don't worry, it's fine, it's fine. So my 1 hour hike there, 1 hour hike back was a 3.5 hour hike there, up hills, over rocks, through a river. I was like, this was not, this was not it. And the whole time Robbie's saying to me, you know, get it together. This is a really important day. This is a really important day. And I'm like, oh my God, he's proposing. I have had 4 panic attacks at this point. So needless to say, it didn't happen on the mountain, but horrible experience for my first time out of the country.
Is there anywhere else you've gone since then?
Not out of the country since then. I think he scarred me a little bit. I'm like, if you're taking me out of the country again, we might need to go to a resort or something. Maybe not Peru.
Where did you meet him? Like, how long ago?
So interestingly enough, back in my second marketing job, I was working in one of those corporate buildings that has a few different offices, and he was working in a different office in the same building. So we kind of met in the hallway there, and nothing. I would like stalk him around the office, and like I'd go right to his desk and be like, oh, I lost a package. Do you have my package? And like nothing ever came of it. But then, you know, a year or two later, when I started working with Mainline Today and I was looking for things to write about, I remembered from stalking him online that in addition to his finance job, he had the clothing business and was living in Westchester. So I was like, oh, I'll interview him. So reached out, did an article on him. And then when the article came out, he was like, oh, maybe we should, you know, go get a drink to celebrate. I was like, yeah, maybe we should. And here we are.
There we go. So walk us through the hunt, because I don't know as much about the hunt as I do Mainline Today. So what's like the goal of the hunt, and how did you get involved with that magazine as well?
Yeah, so the hunt is quarterly. It's only 4 issues a year, where Mainline is 12. It's based in the Brandywine Valley, so kind of, you know, like southern Chester County and the tip of Delaware. Northern Delaware, I guess you would say. It's kind of like horse country, like hunt country. It's just a different way of life than the main line. I think the main line's a little bit quicker paced and a little more in your face glamorous, where the hunt country is kind of just slowed down, you know, still kind of the same clientele, but more like luxy farmy, if that makes any sense. So it's kind of a nice exactly, it's a nice switch up between the two, because one, it's quarterly, so I'm writing it on a slower basis, but two, it's just such a different lifestyle that it's almost like a nice little country escape to get to write that. And when I had started with Mainline Today, that was the deal, like you would be doing Mainline Today and the hunt. So that's how I got involved with that one.
So is it like under the same company?
Yeah, so it's all under the Today Media blanket. So there's magazines in New York, there's magazines in Delaware, there's magazines in Maryland, and then Mainline.
Okay, cool. Is there like a most meaningful story that you've gotten to write? What do you say?
That's a good one. I think one of the most meaningful, I think, and I always say this one, but it always just sticks out to me. I got to write in our February 2024 issue. I got to write a story on the 20 Men Project, which takes African American men from Chester County and tries to portray them in a better light than the media typically portrays African American men. So highlighting them as fathers and husbands and business owners and executives and whatnot. So I got to interview the photographer who started that project and get quotes from some of the men who were involved in it and just share that project. And when it first came out, I remember the photographer reached out to me crying. She was like, I thought you'd give me maybe half a page, but you gave me like an 8-page spread. This is amazing. And just what it led to them. Like now they're working on a documentary and they went on the news from it. So to kind of be like a springboard for them to help them launch something that's really important to society, I think is probably the most meaningful thing I've done.
It's awesome. What's your day-to-day like? What do you say?
My day-to-day is totally different every day, but I will say I work 7 days a week and I love it. Like I honestly lose track of the days. There's no Sunday scaries for me because I just love it so much. But it depends, throughout the day I'm kind of on the road doing interviews or going to photo shoots or going to networking events, meeting different business owners. So there's days like that where I'm on the road all day, and then there's days where I'm like holed up in my apartment writing all day. So it just kind of depends. I'm writing, I'm editing, maybe I'm out filming some social media content. So like every day is different, which makes it really hard to get bored, which is nice when every day. And it's also nice I have a nice setup where like I don't have to be sitting at my desk from 9 to 5. Like there are days I may sleep in till 10, but I might be writing at 7 o'clock at night. Like I just kind of get to follow my creative flow and my schedule, which is highly recommend for quality of life.
Yeah. It sounds like very like entrepreneurial under like a company. Like it sounds like a very cool position.
Yeah, because I still have to get done things, but it's relying on my own time management. It's made my time management really great, keeping track of things and getting everything done when I want to get it done, but by that ultimate deadline.
Right. Is there like a place you would say that you thrive off of and like write in? Is there like one environment that you would say you thrive off of most, or are you just good at adapting everywhere?
It really depends. Like I just gotta go with the flow. I think I have this in my apartment. I have this humongous sectional that was way too big for the living room, but we didn't measure it before we moved in, so it is what it is. But it's got really thick arms, so I end up doing a lot of my writing like in the corner of that couch, like the laptop on the arm. And it's like
cool.
And then I wonder why my back hurts all the time.
So what's the future look like for you? What are your personal goals, the goals under the magazine, and where do you see this evolving to and going for yourself?
Yeah, I think for the first time, people love to talk about goals, but I think for the first time I'm just really content where I am, and like I have a lot to learn in my role and I'm learning it actively. I have a really wonderful boss who he has never put me down or like told me no. Like if I say, I want to do this, he either says, yeah, go for it, or he says, cool, let's maybe take it this way. Like he never just flat out steamrolls me or tells me no. Like he's really wonderful and letting me learn by doing. So, ultimately one day he will retire and I'd love to step up and fulfill his role. So that's kind of my ultimate goal that I've discussed with him. But so career-wise, that's it. Goals for the year, I think you talked to Carly about resolutions.
Yeah.
But goals for the year, I try to set 3 main goals for the year. So they're kind of like North Stars, I guess you would say. So one is that I want to read 30 books by the end of the year. Another was a certain amount of money I wanted to put away. And the third was a certain award that I'm hoping to win for my writing. So, and then under those, I have what one of my mentors calls actionable habits. So like a productive, or I guess an unproductive way to set your goals is to be like, I'm going to read 30 pages every single day. Like you're setting yourself up for failure that way, because life changes, your seasons of life change. Sometimes you're really busy, sometimes you're not busy, and you're just setting yourself up for failure if you try to set a goal around a habit, like an actionable habit. So set the goals as, I'm going to read 30 books this year. And then habits under that are, I'm going to read a little in the morning, I'm going to read a little at night. And then you get there, 'cause without the pressure of, I need to do this every single day.
Right. Yeah. You mentioned books. Do you have like a favorite book, all-time book? Like, what do you say? Reading and writing always went together for you?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think I have to read to be like, I think my writing is better when I'm actively reading, and that's both books and magazines. So I kind of start and end my day with a book, and then before I sit down to write, I'll read a few articles from a magazine to kind of get into that. But favorite book, I always liked Untamed by Glennon Doyle because it has a really pretty cover, and it's kind of all about like breaking free of kind of like following your creative freedom and breaking out of like what society tells you, like you need to sit at a desk from 9 to 5 to be successful, like breaking out of that mold. I
You said
love
it's called
that.
Untamed?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
But I also really love a good psychological thriller.
Like,
But-
would you say you like? It's always been like mainly fiction.
Yeah, I think mainly fiction just because it helps me be more creative, and I think I find more enjoyment because sometimes when you read like a self-help book, it almost feels more like a chore, I think. So like they're great, and I think they're necessary every once in a while, but like maybe I'll throw that in like after every 10 fiction books.
Okay. Right. How big is your team at Mainline, by the way? You mentioned like the role.
Yeah.
How big is the team you work with?
So probably it depends because a lot of it's like different contractors. Like we don't have a photographer on staff, but we have
Okay.
4 to 5 photographers that we work with. So, and it's kind of the same for writers. You know, we have a food editor, we have a home and style editor, we have a sports editor, you know, and they're not on staff like I am, but they're contractors, if that makes sense. So the
Okay.
number with, you know, editorial and then publishing and sales team kind of falls between like 10 and 15, I would say.
Cool. All right, as we wrap it up here, so we've been doing this. I feel like we forget it for like some of our guests. Kyle, we've been bad at this.
Yeah.
Kyle, ask the question we've been trying to do for our 2025, our last question of the
Okay.
episode.
Well, I'm scared I'm gonna butcher it. It's what advice do you have for us?
Yeah, what advice do you have for us?
Keep doing this for sure. And I would say really, you know, focusing on connecting, not networking, because people are going to remember you for the connection that you made. You know, try to form relationships with people and not just, you know, oh, here's my business card, reach out to me. You know, try to really form those relationships. Like, you know, you mentioned Chris Rafter, how you guys have that relationship. He comes on the podcast and you do some stuff for him. You know, I think that is really what I've gotten the most out of is those relationships that I've formed. You know, I interview people and then I've stayed in touch with
Right.
them after, and they've become mentors to me and friends to me. So definitely, you know, and understand that you don't know everything, you know, and it's fine. Like nobody's expecting you to know everything. You know, nobody knows everything. So, you know, always try to learn and soak in from those mentors that you form connections with.
100%. Appreciate that.
That's a good last question. I like that.
Yeah. I hope to stay in touch. I'm sure I'll definitely be watching your stuff, you know, in the same industry I'm interested in. So I'm sure I'll see you around at some point.
Yeah, I love it.
Thank you so much for coming, Gina. Really appreciate it. And guys, Kyle Cohen, Leo Kosuch, Gina Lizzo, Motive Podcast, signing off.